Hello, true art believers. Welcome to my YouTube channel where I make videos of acrylic pour paintings, live stream drawing videos, and I have interviews with artists internationally around the world. Before I start, make sure to smash the subscribe button and hit the notifications bell. On today's episode of the Artist Interview Series, I will be talking with photographer Gary Kessler. Gary is a commercial advertising photographer specializing in portraits, architecture, and automotive photography. I look forward to getting to know more about Gary's work and hearing what he has to say. Thank you and enjoy the show. Gary, welcome to the Artist Interview Series. How are you doing today?
Doing well. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So you were just telling me that you were spending all day working on edits for some photos. Yes.
Yes.
And what was that? Tell a little bit more about that.
Okay, so we do some product photography for a company called Robo World, and they make pendants, which are basically like iPhone cases, or CNC manufacturing control panels.
Mhm.
And we did 41 product shots, and that required us stripping out the backgrounds and adding in different shadows, highlights, logos to the product. So it's each product, each shot has to be treated as a brand new step. So 41 shots takes a few hours to go through.
So, well, like when you're taking a photograph in that manner, like it's of the object, you're removing the object out and putting it in like a floating area.
Yeah, we just photograph the objects on white so they can use it on their website and their website store. And then that way, when their advertising agency wants to do any ads with those products, they can add whatever background in they want very quickly and easily, depending on who they're co-branding with.
Gary, how long does that usually take to do like 40 photos?
It'll take me 2 days.
To do 40 photos.
Yeah.
And what's the time frame? Is that like a 8-hour shift or all day?
It's 8 to 12 hours.
8 to 12 hours. So you're doing like almost 24 hours of work for roughly 40 photos.
Yes.
And that's with your experience at making it really fast. That's as efficient as you can go.
Yes, I've been doing this with this company for about 7 years now, and it just part of the issue is you want it to look perfect. So you just sometimes you get done with it and you go back and you go, nah, I'm going to tweak this just a little bit. So there's a little bit of back and forth on it.
How has the like strategy or technology changed to do the same thing that you're doing now from like 10 years ago to like make that same effect?
Oh, I would not have tried this 10 years ago.
Really? Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Because it would have taken way too long. What would have happened 10 years ago is we would have shot it digitally, of course, but I would have sent it out to another retoucher and had them do it because the computers weren't fast enough. The programs weren't fast enough. There just wasn't enough quick workflow to make it my time.
Was it like what are you using for your edits? Is it Photoshop?
Yeah. I shoot everything on a Nikon D750, and I process it, all the raw files in Lightroom, and then I bring it into Photoshop and do the final retouching in Photoshop.
And I'm picturing that it's like a magic wand tool to remove that object. Is that what you're trying to do?
Well, until recently, we use the select tool, or the pen tool to select it. But the new version of Photoshop has what is it? It's the select subject tool.
Yeah.
Which is pretty darn amazing. I mean, it's really speeded things up quite significantly.
I've seen it. It can select a figure pretty good. It discerns it.
It selects it pretty good, and then you got to go in and fine tune it a little bit. But it's much quicker than it used to be.
Yeah. So when was the time that you shifted from outsourcing it to actually doing it yourself?
Probably 5 years ago.
That's when the technology kind of moved up and it was feasible to make the edits yourself.
Yeah, two things happened. The computers got fast enough, the cameras got good enough so that you had large enough files that you could
Mhm.
actually see what you were doing. And I just gained enough experience over time to
Yeah.
be able to do it.
Um, Gary, what was art like for you as a child?
Well, my dad was an amateur photographer, which is how I got into photography. I actually started developing film and printing when I was about 6 years old,
Oh,
standing on
wow.
a little stool in the dark room that he built in the garage. So, I mean, I've always been involved with photography. I wouldn't say I thought of it as art when I started. It was just something really cool to do with my dad, and just got into it from there.
Did do you still have in your dad's like photos that he had that he's made?
Actually, I do. He passed away a number of years ago, but I actually have a lot of his negatives and prints. And when he was in the Army back in the late 50s, he shot firepower demonstrations on 8 millimeter movies and got all that stuff. So
Were they any good? Were they good?
they were okay.
They're okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, what was it like having a like a dark room as a kid?
Oh, it was great. I mean, I got into it more and more as I became a teenager. When I got into high school, a bunch of my friends raced motocross. And so I would shoot the races on one Sunday, make a stack of 8x10 black and white prints, and go to the race the next Sunday and sell them for like $6 a piece. It was great, man. It was a great way to make money.
Wow,
Yeah,
wow.
I had a blast with it.
Um, so after that, when was it a serious transition to something like of a professional photographer? It seems like you've been in it almost your entire life.
Yeah, I pretty much have. I mean, when I was wrapping up high school, it was, I was really into cars and really into photography, and was very fortunate to be able to get a job at a local photography studio, just working in their darkroom and pushing a broom, cleaning everything up, and it just kind of started from there. And like everybody else, I went to a small studio and did portraits and weddings, and realized that I was not the type of person that you wanted to photograph your wedding.
Why was that?
I just didn't have the temperament for it. It takes a real special person to be able to capture a special day like that. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. And I just, it's just not where I was coming from. And I actually have an uncle who was a graphic designer. And coincidentally, I applied for a job at a studio that he was shooting a fashion catalog at. And I got the job, didn't know that my uncle was the client. And he walks in and he's the art director. And I was a lowly second assistant at that point. But, I was all of, I don't know, almost 19 years old at that point.
What was that like for you? Like to be surprised in that fashion?
It was really cool and also a little intimidating because he was really a tremendous graphic designer and he was the client. I mean, I wasn't supposed to talk to him. I was the second assistant. I was getting coffee, getting lunch, loading film, stuff like taking film to the lab, stuff like that. So, and I worked my way up, but it took quite a while.
How do you work your like your way up in that type of career, especially at that time?
Well, um, so you start as a second assistant, which means, you get there at 7:30 in the morning, you get coffee, you get donuts, you're sure the studio is clean, you're sure at the time we were shooting 4x5 inch transparency film for the most part. You're sure your film's out of the freezer, it's loaded. You've called the lab, made them aware that they're going to have to pick up color film and process it and get it back to you. And gradually you work your way up to where you're the first assistant. And at that point, you're putting up the sets, setting up the lighting, basically doing everything until the photographer is ready, pulling the Polaroids at the time, doing all the lighting tests, and be sure that the photographer, when he walks in, doesn't need anything and is ready to go.
You said there was some the camera rolls or what's in the freezer again? What was that you were talking about being in the freezer?
So back in the day when you shot advertising photography, if you were shooting color images, you shot color transparency film, or if
film.
Yeah.
Why did it have to be in the freezer?
Because you keep it frozen to keep the color consistent on it, and so the emulsion. You would buy film by the case, so you'd buy like 150 sheet boxes of the film, the same film with the same emulsion number, made in the same run from Kodak, and you want to keep that color consistent on a project, and the only way to do that is keep it frozen until you need it, defrost it the day you need it, shoot it, and then the lab processes it.
Does that have to go back frozen?
Yeah.
All right. And eventually you moved up, and what was that like?
Great and very intimidating. I mean, it was a lot of responsibility. At the time, we were working on major national ad campaigns with a lot of pretty high-end talent coming in, whether it was models, hair and makeup people, or just the art directors. And basically, it was my responsibility as first assistant to be sure that everything was ready to go that day.
What was some of your favorite projects back then that you worked on?
We worked on the Palm Beach Formal Wears catalog. We shot some bicycle catalogs for Huffy Bicycles. There was a wine company called Avia Wines. We shot all of that. Did a lot of food photography. Did a lot of work for Procter and Gamble. So a lot of stuff with models, like pulling stuff out of the laundry, going, "Oh, this is beautiful," and stuff like that.
So did you? How many bikes did you get when you did photography for Huffy? Did you get any bikes?
Yeah.
No free bikes?
Didn't want any. No free bikes.
How about when you're photographing food? Did you get to eat the food?
No, not really. You didn't really want to eat it after it'd been sitting on set for 4 hours.
I heard some tricks that they do. Is cereal like the milk made of glue?
So here's the deal on that. At the time, and I haven't shot food for years, but at the time, if it's used for editorial work in a magazine, you could use like Elmer's glue as the milk. But if it's being used as an advertisement for the packaging of the product, you had to use what it really said it was. So if it was cereal, you had to use cereal, and you had to use milk. Now you could thicken it up, with like Caro syrup or something, but it had to be the edible product that you were going to sell.
Mm-hmm. And what are some other tricks that they did? Because that's the only one I know of.
Like if you were shooting a turkey, when you take it out of the oven, of course it starts to cool, so the skin starts to crinkle, and so the food stylist would cut the skin and sew it back together tight. So
it's sewed in the back. You just don't see it from the photo. Oh my gosh! Right. Oh, so they had
if you did a cake. You would the stylist would rebuild the edges, with the cake, but just rebuild it so that you had a nice clean edge to it.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Do they still have food stylists of that sort?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do they do? What do they do differently now? What would you? You haven't done it in a while, but what do you know?
I mean, a lot of it's the same.
Really?
I mean, the thing about food photography is, the photographer has to do the way it's done. Okay, so the stylist, say you're shooting a hamburger and fries. Okay, so the stylist will plate a fake set for you, put it on the set so we can compose it, do the lighting, get everything ready the way we want it. When we're ready, then we tell the stylist, okay, we're ready, and she'll make the hero and bring it over. And you have 2 or 3 minutes to shoot it before the bun gets soggy, the cheese runs, whatever.
So when you were a kid, you had a specific genre of work that you made, took photographs from. How did that influence your work now?
I have no idea. I've never thought about it.
Yeah.
I mean, no, let me rephrase. No, that's not true. I was always into cars and motorcycles and things in motion. And I still am. I still shoot cars and motorcycles and things in motion. So, I mean, I guess that's what I would say. That's what influences that.
Do you have a really nice car?
No, I got a '09 Subaru.
Okay.
I mean, it's not a car, but it's not a sports car.
So I like to ask this with artists is I want to know how artists structure their day, and some artists structure their day really well, and some are just like just rando, like totally random, right? And photographers, from my experience, are really cut from a different cloth as far as like how they structure their day. And I want to know, what's a typical day like for you? Maybe a typical business day, or like business photographer day, or a typical art photography day, however you label them. What would that look like?
Well, I mean, I'm pretty disciplined when it comes to the business end of it. I mean, get up, do some meditation, have breakfast, get to the office between 7:30, 8 o'clock. Take care of any business stuff that needs to be taken care of, if we're not shooting early in the morning. And, then jump onto the computer and take care of any retouching or file delivery, client communications. That's a day in the office. And then if we're shooting, I mean, it depends what we're doing. I mean, if we're doing a car on location, we could be on location as early as 4:30 or 5 in the morning to catch the sunrise. Shoot the car while the sun's coming up, shoot maybe till, depending on the time of year and the location, until 10:30 in the morning, stop until probably 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon when the sun's peaked over the horizon, and then start to shoot again and shoot as long as we can until the sun goes away.
Gary, are you a minimalist or a shoot as many type of photos as you can type of guy? Because I know some photographers they'll try to take as little amount of photos that they can just to get the right one, and then some are just like.
Yeah, it really depends on what we're shooting. Sometimes I'm a minimalist, especially if we're doing portraits of attorneys, doctors, CEOs. I mean, those guys, they don't want to be there for the most part. They don't have the time, and they're uncomfortable in the camera. So what I try to do is I'll have a 5-minute conversation with them, figure out who they are, get them in front of the camera, shoot 10, 20, 30 frames maybe, and thank you, we'll see you. If we're doing a beauty shot of a car, we may wait till the light's right and shoot 10 frames. If we shoot in motion, then, God, we could shoot 1,000 frames. It's all over the place. I mean, we do what it takes to get the shot.
Gary, please tell me that when you're taking photographs of lawyers, you have like a little action figure toy that makes noise and you're shaking it in front of them.
I've never thought of that. That's a really good idea.
They might like, what is this guy doing? Don't they do that with so I have a little girl, so that's what they do. They have like little things like make noises, and they try to make your daughter laugh or a little girl laugh, right? And maybe you can do that to an adult and see what happens.
Yeah, it's interesting, but I must say, most of the attorneys we work with when you meet them, they may come across as pretty dry, but once you start talking with them, they're pretty fascinating people and pretty open to doing whatever you need.
What are some fascinating things that you talked about with some attorneys that you worked with or took photos up from?
Um, Oddly, mostly cars.
Mostly cars?
Yeah, cars, art, where they've traveled, what their kids are up to. They're just we don't we they can't talk about their cases, so you got to steer away from that.
Any interesting cars that they talked about?
Oh yeah, I mean these guys, the good ones have really nice stuff. I mean Ferraris, Porsches, Mercedes, Land Rovers. Yeah.
Do you know one that has a car that turns into a transformer yet?
Not yet.
Not
Hope
yet.
to see it one day.
Maybe they do. They're just not telling you. They might have Bumblebee, the transformer.
There's a lot that people don't tell me.
So in that typical day that you're doing your busy work, what would you have to accomplish in a day for it to be like for you to consider it a success?
So, get the billing, the business, they pay the bills, all that stuff out of the way first thing in the morning. Then, I really like to get onto the computer and take care of any image processing. And when I say image processing, I'm not talking about real high-end retouching. I'm just talking about maybe we did a shoot the day before. I'll make the selections from that shoot to send to the client so they can make their final selections. That'll be part of the day. Getting out images on my Instagram, Facebook posts just to keep people aware, that I'm out there. Then I also try to send some email self-promotion pieces out to some clients I want to work with, making phone calls, staying in touch with, people I want to work with. I mean, it's a lot of hustle, a lot of sales calls, or if not calls, emails or texts.
Mm-hmm.
Generally I'll work from 8 to 5:30, 6 o'clock, pretty straight through, take a lunch break, of course, but, it seems like a lot of busy work when I'm not shooting, and then there's also equipment maintenance that comes into that.
What does equipment maintenance entail? Like what do you have to do typically?
Well, depending on what we're shooting, for every different shoot, we take a different set of gear out. Okay. I mean, the camera is basically the same. The tripod's basically the same. But if I'm doing portraits, I may take 3 lights and 1 power pack, 5 or 6 light stands and light modifiers. If we're doing a big car shoot and I'm lighting the cars, forget that. If I'm doing a big shoot in a factory,
okay,
I may take 4 or 5 power packs, 10 light heads, 15 light stands. I mean, it's a lot of gear. And every time you go out and come back, it's not just myself, it's myself and maybe 1, 2, or 3 assistants. And at the end of a shoot, you got to unpack it, be sure everything's put away properly. Sometimes the light modeling tube will blow or a flash tube will blow. You just got to do the maintenance, be sure that and repack everything in its proper order. So when you show up at the next shoot, you don't go, oh, hey, where's that umbrella? Oh, I don't know. Well, that doesn't work.
Is there a specific way that I clean the lenses?
Yeah, I mean, I use a lens cleaning cloth, that you get at a camera store. I just very, very, very gently.
Do you have to toss those out after a while?
All the time.
Yeah, because your finger grease gets on them.
They just gather dust and stuff, and they're just no good.
Can you wash them?
Real quick. It doesn't work.
No, you can't wash them.
For $1, go buy another one.
Oh, so in the morning you mentioned that you meditate. What's that like? this is something really interesting I've been finding. A lot of the artists that I've talked to have meditate, and I don't know if this is just an artist thing or I'm like discovering that meditation is like a silent, like a secret trick that everyone's doing that I'm not well informed about. Like what's meditation to you?
Well, I mean, first of all, I mean, I'm like not like I don't get up and meditate for like 45 minutes. I'm like 10 minutes. I just get up, house is quiet, do some deep breathing for maybe 5 or 10 minutes. It just with my eyes closed, it just really just sets a nice pace to the day because it can get out of control real fast.
Yeah, yeah. Do you meditate throughout the day if things get a little hectic?
No,
Just in the morning.
I mean, once the day is rolling, it's rocking and rolling.
Rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you said that what was it? Was it whiskey or scotch? You're in the whiskey or scotch.
Oh, not every day. I mean,
I mean, there was. You said that there's a brewery or a
distillery
nearby. Bourbon. Okay,
yeah.
and you have
distillery.
What's that?
New Riff
Distillery.
Yeah.
And you kick back at the end of the day and have a couple bourbon?
Nah, but I mean that's a treat. I mean, most of the time at the end of the day, if the opportunity is right, my wife and I will go out and have a beer or two at a brewery because there are 57 breweries within about 35 minutes of us.
Oh wow!
In Cincinnati, so we really enjoy that.
So the champagne of beer, you know what that is? Is that Miller Lite?
No, it's not.
Or is it Coors?
It's Miller High Life.
Miller High Life is the champagne of beer?
Yeah.
Okay. I totally forgot. So you have one of those at the end of the day?
Yeah, that's it.
Right.
I mean, mainly because the days get really, if we're shooting a lot, the days are really intense. I mean, like, to give you an example, let's see.
It sounds like it.
On I guess Monday this week, we did 4 portraits and 6 group shots of 3 attorneys in 2 hours. Wow. Packed up, loaded up, went to another location, set up again, and did another portrait of a Cincinnati Park Board commissioner, tore everything down, went back to the studio, unloaded it, went into the office, downloaded the images from both shoots, did the edit from the lawyers, and sent that to their firm. And so, and when you have multiple days on days like that, as much as it sounds like it'd be fun to party, it's it wears on you.
It sounds like you're very prolific.
I like what I do and I like to work. I'm not happy if I'm not working.
You sounds like you're really blessed in that regard, don't you say?
Very much so.
Yeah. And I have this. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say I have really tremendous clients, and they really support me, and it's just great. So when somebody calls, even if if I'm real booked up, I'll you find a way to fit them in.
Yeah, I had this question, but I don't know if it really pertains. I'm going to see if it does. Do you have any habits that you formed throughout your career that help you with the creation of your art? It could be through your commercial art or through your own like fine art photography. It doesn't have to be relegated just to the your business, the business commercial art side.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I would say for the business end of things, it just I've done it for so long. I know what's expected of it, and you just get into the routine when you show up for the shoot and you do it. For the fine art stuff, I really like to pull way back, and not be as high energy and slow way down and look at things and really kind of have the time to compose it and, move the camera 5 inches this way, 5 inches that way. and see it. So, I mean, I find the difference between my commercial work and fine art is really, really big. I mean, when I'm shooting fine art, it's a whole different mindset.
So Gary, it sounds like as you kind of laid out here, is you have a very very business like busy commercial photography business right now.
Yes.
And how do you set time to do that fine art photography that you're speaking of? Like, what do you do? Is it all on the weekend, or are you actually working through the weekend, or do you have like fine art vacations that you go out and you can allocate enough time to really kind of relax and capture something that isn't, a client's work?
Right. That's exactly what I do. I mean, my wife and I love to travel, and over Thanksgiving we were up in the Adirondack Mountains with some folks, and it was just great to walk out in the morning and the fog's just coming off the lake, and you just slow way down and shoot, and you know do that, and the other side of the coin is if I'm not booked and I wake up in the morning and there's a beautiful sunrise, and I'll go out and shoot it.
Hmm.
I mean, the, I'm very lucky in that if I'm not shooting and I feel like taking a day to do art photography, yeah, I can do that.
Is there a rhythm with your business? Is there like a season of photography that really kind of shines throughout the year?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say this is my slow season, but knock on wood, we're actually pretty busy right now. But really, things crank up middle of March through middle of October is really busy cranking commercial work. Um, and what I do is I'll reach a point where I know I got to take some time off, and that's when I'll do the fine art stuff. Even in the middle of the real busy commercial season, I'll slow down and go, yeah, I need 3 days here.
Why do you think it's really busy during March and October, throughout March and through October?
Um, First of all, that's when people get their budgets in January, so it
Okay.
takes them a few months to get cranked up. What are we going to do? When are we going to produce it? So that's why it kind of starts to flow in then. And then being in the Midwest, the weather is ugly outside until about April. So it's generally, doing architecture, especially if it's exterior work, you want green grass and leaves on the trees. So we don't do any architecture hardly at all, until it gets nice. And it's just always been the cycle. I mean, I've been in business forever, and I rarely am busy until the middle of March.
Gary, have you photographed any Frank Gehry's work? His architecture, his buildings, architecture buildings.
Let me think about that for a second. I don't believe I have. There's some Frank Lloyd Wright buildings in Cincinnati that I photographed, and some Hannaford buildings, but I've never done any Gary stuff.
Frank Gehry. He's got like those amorphous building
Yeah, like
structures.
Balboa and stuff. Yeah,
You ever seen his sketches for how he designs his pieces?
never have.
They just look like a bunch of scribbles. They, like if you see his buildings and then you see the drawings, you're like, oh, that's why they look like what they look like. Is because there's like little scribbles,
Right.
and yeah, really interesting stuff. So you've photographed Frank Lloyd Wright's work.
Yeah, he did a number of residential homes, actually within a couple of miles of where we live.
Yeah.
And, I haven't photographed him for anything other than, oh, that's Frank Lloyd Wright house. So, just swing by and take some shots of it. But
Did you get to go inside?
I've been inside a couple of them. Yeah, they're pretty cool.
What were some notable features of them?
Um, oh, it's been a while. I remember the hardwood floors just knocked me out. And then the lines were so clean. You'd go from one room to the other, and it just led you. you didn't have to think about where you were going. It just kind of took you through the house.
What's some other interesting architecture that you've photographed?
Um, Children's Hospital here in Cincinnati is actually quite spectacular. There's a company in town called Kohler Design, and they do the wayfinding. Like if you're trying to figure out how to get from one place to the other, they put all of that up, and it's just really cool how they do it. There's another firm here in town, MSA Architecture, and they do. There used to be an airport in a suburb here called Blue Ash, and they redeveloped it into a place called Summit Park, and it's just really, really spectacular. There's another place right on the river called Riverbend. It's a concert venue. I shot all their opening stuff, which was great because we traded for 4 tickets for 2 years to every show we wanted to go to.
So you did photography for shows.
Oh, and the Biltmore.
The
Biltmore Estates down in Asheville, North Carolina.
Did someone text you that?
My wife did.
I was like, all right, there's another one that I had there. Okay. What was good about that? What was interesting?
The Biltmore?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. It's, first of all, that anybody could build anything that huge and beautiful is just mind. Have you ever been down there?
No, I have not.
Oh, it's unbelievable. It's spectacular. I mean, it's on this, it takes 15 minutes from the time you turn off the road to get to the estate. And when you get to the estate, it's just, I don't know how to, it's like nothing I've ever seen before. It's just unbelievably, between the architecture, the painting, the art, the furniture, it's I was speechless pretty much the whole time we were there.
How'd you land the gig to take photographs of that place?
We didn't. We just went down we wanted to see the Downton Abbey exhibit that was there. So
okay.
We just went down for the weekend and did the tour, but there weren't a lot of people there when we were there, and I shot the whole thing. It was great. Got actually really pretty beautiful shots.
Oh wow! So Gary, what do you typically do when you're not working? Like, what you got? Any hobbies? Got any special interests outside of photography?
Oh yeah. My wife and I love to get out, and she loves to walk. I ride my bike, and we do these timed things where she'll say, "I'm going to walk for 2.5 hours," and I'll take off on my bicycle and go for a 2.5 hour bike ride, and we'll hook up afterwards. And that's the same text. Just let me.
It's your wife saying, "Don't forget the other hobby that you."
No. It was actually just saying the Biltmore, just to keep of it. So we, get out, do a lot of bike riding, a lot of walking. We love to get out and hike in the woods. Our house was built in the 20s, and so it always requires a fair amount of maintenance, which we both really enjoy doing. My wife restores antique furniture for private clients, so as part of that, we love to go out and go antiquing for ourselves, and we have a lot of interest in that.
Antique furniture.
Good art shows when we can. A lot of our friends are artists and stuff, so we like to, check all that out.
Very well, very nice. So Gary, I don't know if you know this, but right now, I haven't checked. It's been a while. There is, was it like? It's $850 million Mega Millions or Powerball. I don't really keep
930 now.
930. The little funny joke is my work gave me a lottery ticket, and I was going around. Don't worry, fellas, I've won this, and I was trying to I was manifesting it. I was trying to manifest that, like just manifest it into reality. I was like, I'm imagining the winning ticket. And I'm going to look at this ticket on the weekend, and I'm going to look at the numbers. The numbers are going to match on my ticket on the screen, and I'm just going to be just well off. I don't know what I'm going to do after that, but imagining what I'm going to do, and I was imagining that I'd probably have to find like a financial expert to figure out what I got to do with all this money.
Right.
Uh, and I just kept going around telling people, "Don't worry, our money troubles are no longer are behind us because I've just won the what was it at $780 million at the time."
Right.
But lo and behold, I'm still here, and I did not win it. I think I had a number. I don't know.
Okay.
So, if what would you do if you won $930 million?
Well, of course, you pay off all your bills. You set up trusts for your kids. Those would be the first, and be sure everybody in the family is taken care of, both sides. And I don't know. I'd probably still keep working. I like what I do. I mean, probably get a nicer car, nicer clothes. Not that anything's wrong or bad. I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty happy. I think it'd just be a blast to have the money. Travel. That's what we do, is travel.
I'd imagine maybe you wouldn't have an office. You just like rent an office. You travel around and you just do business around the world, and you wouldn't have an office. You just kind of rent an office on demand, a pod office.
Actually, the one thing I would do is I would build my dream studio.
Oh yeah, that'd be nice.
I mean,
what would your dream studio look like?
oh, it'd probably be 6,000 to 8,000 square feet, big enough to shoot some cars in.
Yes.
Have a really, really nice dark room, nice offices, workshop, prop room, kitchen. Really nice architecture on the outside, and a big parking lot.
You would hire Frank Gehry to make your studio.
No, actually, I'd hire a friend of mine named Bob Powell, or our neighbors who are both architects.
You would hire them, and they make a really, really sweet studio.
Yeah.
What would that look like? What kind of what are some of their trademark features
Of a nice studio?
Well, I mean, like of the people that you would hire.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, we've never even talked about it. I mean, I have no idea. I haven't considered that one.
Let's imagine this studio. It's like 8,000 square feet. You want to have enough room for cars. Why not? How about one of those car storage elevator things? Well, you have unlimited money that you could store like a.
It'd be easier to pull it in.
That's what the parking lot's for. Okay.
Where I could shoot down on it.
Okay. All right. That's great. So do you still have a darkroom?
I do.
Yeah, and you still do that type of work?
I haven't done it in quite a while, mainly because kids were at home, we were busy. I just didn't have the time, and both kids are out and doing well, and getting ready to crank the darkroom back up, hopefully this spring.
What are your like plans with the darkroom work?
It's only black and white.
Okay.
The gentleman who I last assisted many years ago studied with Ansel Adams one summer, and I got to do all the zone system testing and stuff. So I just love printing black and white, and I really am looking forward to getting back to shooting a lot more landscape type stuff and making really fine silver prints.
And that's specifically relegated to your fine art work.
Yeah, I mean, now back in the day, when everything was shot on film, we did have a black and white darkroom at the studio, and we did all our own black and white processing and printing. But I don't know of anyone who's doing that right now for clients. I mean, I'm sure there are people, but the people I work with, I can't see where that would work.
So that there wouldn't be. It's very hard to be in that business and do that type of work in darkroom style.
Commercially, yes, I would think so. Yeah, I mean, first of all, the digital cameras do it well.
Yeah.
Very few. The reason for me to have the darkroom is to make the prints, and to have the prints, framed, matted, and hanging somewhere. And that's not really how images are used commercially for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
So let's separate. Let's put the commercial side out for a second.
Great.
What's someone saying Ansel Adams? It's impressive that you had someone that studied on Ansel Adams. Sorry.
Yeah.
Let's go off that. Like, what was that like being under someone or learning from someone who actually was around Ansel Adams?
You know, the whole experience was pretty amazing. So what happened was this gentleman, Jeff Kalk, went out to study with Ansel for, I want to say a month one summer. And when he came back, you know, Ansel developed the zone system, which is a way of exposing, processing, and printing images. And so I went into the darkroom at Jeff's guidance and learned how to develop, process, and print. I won't say the way Ansel did because I wasn't there, but as best we could. And it was, you know, it was an amazing experience, and it's still information that I use today. Even though we shoot digital, it's a way of making exposures for photographs that, you know, you just don't ever forget. And it applies as much today as it did then.
What's the main difference with that type of exposure technique that you learned how's it different from the standard way? Does it veer off the course a little bit, or because I don't know anything about how you process photos, so how is it different?
Oh boy. So
Cliff Notes version, yeah. Idiot's Guide, like the Idiot's Guide to processing photos like Ansel Adams.
Well, I mean, the biggest thing is knowing how to expose the image properly, and it's a very hard thing to describe. You have your tones from pure black to pure white, and you want to be able to capture that on your film, so that when you process the film and then go to make the print, you can then take those tones and transfer it from the negative to the print. And frankly, I've done it for so long, I'm not sure I can tell you how I just, you know, like I know what an exposure is going to be when I show up somewhere.
Oh, wow.
It's just kind of built in at this point. But it's all because I had this experience of learning how to process the film. And when you look at the film, the negative, you can tell if it's a well-processed negative and exposed negative or not. And it's really the same with digital. When you look at the back of a digital camera, they have the histogram. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's like a little spiky profile that shows you.
I think I kind of know what you're talking about, but I have very little experience with it.
So if you know the zone system, you can look at that and know, okay, this is a bad exposure because it's too high on the white end and you're going to blow your whites out. You'll never see what's there. Or it's way too far down on the black end and you'll never see anything that's in the shadows. So it teaches you how to keep your whites white and your shadows and see the details in the whites and the shadows. Does that make sense? And all the grays in between.
So we have a question. Do you prefer black and white or color for your art prints?
Oh, black and white.
Why is that?
I guess it's what it's what I first did, and it just feels like home. And it talks to my eye.
And you said that's silver. That's was it silver point or silver print, or what was it called?
Yeah, well, so most black and white, there are many different processes of making a black and white print. And most people today, not most people, a lot of people use just regular, you would call regular photographic paper, which is silver gelatin coated on a piece of paper. You know, the light sensitive material is made with silver.
Okay. Now, fine art photography.
Yep.
Do you have a process on how you go about with your fine art side of your photography?
I probably do, but I would say I really love doing landscapes and out, if we're out hiking in the woods or the mountains, you come across a scene that speaks to you, and then you just got to set the camera up and see what you have and shoot from there. It's a lot of, for me, it's a lot of um, trial and error, and you shoot a lot of stuff, and maybe you don't know what you have till you get back and you really have a chance to look at it. I don't know that I would say I'm not a great conceptualist. I
Hmm.
don't go out into the woods and go, this is the picture I'm taking today.
uh,
You know, I mean,
uh, that's funny because I relate to that. Okay.
yeah, I mean, I go out and you're in a beautiful place, hopefully, or a special place, and you see something unique and you try to capture it, and you hope that when you get back and you make the prints that it's something special, and that it emotes something for you and the people that see it.
I totally agree. Yeah. But definitely not going to like, I'm going to take this photograph and this is what's going to look like today. Yeah, that's a good one. I appreciate that. Gary, so you do automobile photography for was it like it's like this exotic car exhibition. What's it pronounced
Okay,
again?
it's actually the main one that I shoot for is the Cincinnati Concours d'Elegance.
Okay, yeah.
And basically, and there are many concourses around the world, and basically what they are collections of cars at a show over, and it's generally most of them are 3-day events. So you'll have a big fundraising party on a Friday night, a countryside tour on Saturday, and maybe a party Saturday night, and then the show is Sunday morning at we do ours at a place called Alt Park, which is a very beautiful park in Cincinnati, but it could be at the Biltmore Estates. It could be anywhere cool. And they have each concourse will have a theme. So like the one coming up in Cincinnati is motorsports, Monte Carlo. So we'll actually have cars that raced all the way, not all the way, cars that raced to Bonneville, to Monte Carlo, to Indianapolis. So that'll be one classification. And then they'll have foreign cars from 1940 to 1980, many different classes of cars, and they're all judged. And, the winners get trophies. And the goal of the event is to put car aficionados together and raise money. At least our goal is to raise money for a given charity, and the charity we give money to is the Junior Arthritis Foundation. So you
Do
get
they
to
have
go
a
to cars and raise money.
do they do they have a section for like cars of the future or like
Yeah,
futuristic cars?
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, every concourse is different, but
Hmm.
like we always, one of the categories I know we have this year is what they call it, future classics.
Okay.
So it might be like the Corvette just came out with a brand new model. So I'm
Mhm.
sure we'll have the new Corvettes and McLarens and stuff like that there.
Have you seen any of those like high tech cars? I saw a video of one where it the wheels are basically spheres and it allows it to spin
I've seen
360.
videos, but I've never seen one.
Oh man, what's one of the most unique cars you've seen at those events?
Oh man, so many. Um,
Have you sat in any of them?
Not at the events because there are too many people around. And,
You just take a seat, sit down a while, like, I'll take a peek, hop
right.
in, drive
Um,
away.
yeah, no, not. Um, the thing is, some of these cars are worth 40, 50, 60 million dollars.
Ooh.
So, and some of them are literally priceless. I mean, where they're one offs. But I mean, Oh goodness, you caught me out. I love Porsches. I love Ferraris, Lamborghinis. Excuse me, all that type of stuff. I mean, I don't know. I just like cars. To ask me to pick one is kind of impossible.
Interesting. Um, what are some other significant things that occur during those events that you really enjoy?
So part of what happens at these events is you want to get younger people involved. So there's a collectible car insurance company called Haggerty. I mean, there are many, but there's this one in particular, Haggerty, and they sponsor a thing called Junior Judges. So they have kids from like 6 to 15, and they put them in a group, and they go around and teach them how to judge these cars. And it's just really so cool to see these young kids come up, and they get to see maybe a 1927 Assato Franchitti and get to judge it and see it run and stuff like that. And it's just amazing. I mean, that to me is, really, really cool. And the
How
countryside tours are great. Those are fun.
how do you judge a car like that?
You know, I wish I could tell you, but I've never paid attention to how they judge it. I mean, of course, they're judging on, what's the paint like, how clean is the engine, what's the interior like, what's the quality of the car. That's what they're looking at. But the specifics I couldn't tell you.
Do you have any special techniques that you use with your photography?
A lot, yeah.
Any ones any that you can divulge right now? Are
Oh
there
yeah.
too are they like too secret? They're like Kentucky Fried Chicken secret recipe that you can't tell.
No, I mean, if you can, the thing is, I can tell anybody how to do it, and it'll look different than the way I do it. So,
Yeah.
that's fine. I mean, when we shoot the cars, one of the things we found with digital is it's very hard to get the metal to look like metal or carbon fiber, because the textures are so smooth and the digital is so smooth. So what we do, and stop me if I'm going too far, is you take your initial exposure, okay? Then you make another layer in Photoshop,
Okay.
okay? Then we do a shadow highlights curve, which is it's in Photoshop. Anybody that works with Photoshop will know what that is. And we have very specific settings that we set, which are 20, 20, 150 for shadows, and 30, 30, 70 for highlights, and a layer of that. Okay. Then I go in and, like on the yellow Ferrari that you saw, I selected that body and did a contrast, balance, hue, saturation curve on that. Then we select all the wheels, like if they're chrome wheels, and make them pop a little bit more. It's a lot of real little tedious moves.
Did
So
not
to
know
build
that.
it out to make it look the way your eye sees it.
Yeah, it adds the extra clarity.
Yes. Yeah. And depth. Depth is the hard thing to get, because I think digital tends to flatten everything out.
Why do you think that is?
Well, it's just the way the sensors are, the way the camera sees it. It's a digital exposure is just the beginning of what you're going to make a photograph look like when
Hmm.
you start working with it, no matter whether it's a car, a person, or a landscape.
Gary, what advice can you give to artists?
Love what you do and keep on doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, really. I mean, I've done this my whole life, and I've mostly been in the commercial end of things, but I've always shown and printed and sold my work. And it's just, you just got to keep after it every day,
Hmm.
you know?
And I'm going. This is like the advice section of the interview. I have a
Okay.
few. So, what's some life advice that you'd give to someone of any age? It could be a quote that you stand by, or some sort of wisdom that you've learned in your years on this earth.
Oh, Oh, that's a loaded one.
It's loaded. No way. It's
I mean, love what you do. I mean, do stuff, do what you do because you love it. And I'm very, very fortunate to uh, have a great family, and they keep, the best advice is be with people you love because they keep you really balanced and
Mhm.
honest. You know.
All right. Well, thank you, Gary. One last question, Gary. What's a dream project of yours that you would love to do?
I would love to shoot the 24 hours of Le Mans endurance race for a major automobile manufacturer.
That was a mouthful. What's that?
Okay. um, so the 24 hours of Le Mans is the most prestigious 24-hour endurance race in the world. And, most of the big auto manufacturers in the world, Porsche, Ferrari, all of those people sponsor and cars and teams to race there. And I would love to shoot that race for one of those companies.
What would it take for you to do that?
Well, being in the right place and selling to those companies, and having them think I'm talented enough to do it, and then being able to stay awake for 24 hours.
Can you stay awake for 24 hours?
For that, yeah.
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 Are you seeking it out now? Are you looking to do that?
I've actually really just gotten to the point in my life where I can do that. Yeah.
You
I mean, I
know,
haven't started yet, but yeah, it's kind of a goal.
I want you to tell me when you do that so I can promote it,
All
or at
right.
least show your photographs after the fact.
Yeah, I will definitely stay in touch with you on that.
Yeah, Gary. Where can we find you? Where can people online get a hold of you, look at your work, and so forth?
Okay. So for the fine artwork, it's Chase Kessler fineart.com. And it's CHASE, KESSLER, fineart.com. And then for commercial work, it's just KesslerPhotography.com.
What about social media? Are you on those platforms as
Yes.
well?
It's Chase Kessler Fine Art on Facebook, and at Chase Kessler Fine Art on Instagram, and Instagram only for my commercial work is at Kessler Photo. I don't do Facebook for the commercial work.
We're a little laggy for a second. Did you notice that?
Sorry. No, I didn't.
Yeah, you were like lagging for a second. But what's the last one on Instagram you said?
At Kessler Photo.
At Kessler Photo, and that's your
Yeah.
your like fine art version, fine
No,
art page.
that's actually mostly my automotive work.
Okay,
For the
at
commercial
Kessler
stuff.
Photo.
Yeah. The at Chase Kessler Fine Art is the fine art work.
Gary, I really want to thank you for taking time out of your busy day to talk to me about your work, talk to me about your career, getting to know you. I'm really quite honored because you sound very busy, and I really do appreciate you taking time out of your day to speak with me.
Oh, it's truly been my pleasure. This has been a blast. I really, really appreciate your time also.
Right. And I just want to thank everyone that's been watching. And for those that are watching and want to see more artist interviews, don't forget to follow me on wherever you're viewing me on. If you're following me on Twitch, follow me there. If you're following me on Facebook, hit the follow button. If you're following me on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. I believe we might have one more comment here. Oh yeah, you're welcome. We have a person here that just want to say thank you. Jackie says thank you for the interview. She really enjoyed hearing more about your work.
Great.
So,
thanks, Jackie.
Yeah, Jackie was the one that asked about the black and white and color photos.
Okay.
So I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Really do appreciate you. And I wish all you a wonderful night. Pierson out. Gary, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.